All right, let's get into our spring roster breakdown. And we're in your world, Ted. This is the best. This is my favorite one that we do because I kind of just get to step over to the side and say, all right, Ted, inside linebackers and Cheetah, go. Where are we starting? Who we starting with? You got
it. I guess we start with the guy that everyone knows, Stutsman, right? He's coming off of a really good year, led the Big 12 in tackles. Last, handful of games were his best of his career, and it should be something that he can build on. He's going to be looked at as a leader in that position group. He's the most veteran player with the most snaps. You continue to build knowledge as you play and experience, but he's at a point now where it's not an excuse. If you have a full year in a defense, it's no longer an excuse that you're kind of still learning it. He's got a full year under his belt, so I expect him cut down massively on mental mistakes. I think another year in strength and conditioning is going to be good for him. He's a big dude. You don't have to worry anything about size. He's got a good motor. He plays hard. Some of his testing numbers, like for 40, weren't great, but I think maybe he was just kind of as a young player overwhelmed with all of the stuff happening, and I think that we could see his speed increase through this cycle of strength and conditioning. So I think everything is there for him to have a really good year. Now, he needs a good D-line in front of him. That's going to help. The better those guys play, the more defined everything is in front of you, the easier it is to make plays. And I think he's a good tackler. He missed some tackles, obviously, but I think the majority of his missed tackles stem from mental mistakes and technique issues and really understanding where you fit, not really a physical limitation on tackling. So I expect him to have a really big year, and I expect him to grow up and be the leader of that defense.
Yeah, I really don't have many, if any, questions about his physical ability. Right now, one thing that you and I brought up a lot throughout the season was he's got to get his pads down, man, because he's a tall dude. Mm-hmm. He's him and I are like the same height. Like he's 6'4".
Yep.
Like he's a tall guy there in the inside. So you have to understand that. And, when you're absorbing contact from some of these guys, like you have to drop your pad level. So that's something I'm sure he is working on throughout spring ball. But I think the most important thing for him is the leadership and just the mental side, like being that guy along with whether it's Kanak or McKinzie or Witter or whoever, right? That absolutely knows the defense inside and out. Now, your hope is that all your guys do, right? But Ted, you know this better than anyone else. That inside backer position, like that's where everyone turns and look. The defensive linemen stand up and turn around and look at those guys, and all the guys in the defensive backfield are looking at those guys for like, okay, what are we doing here? Yeah. And Stutsman needs to get to the point where, there's no hesitation anymore. Yep. And from what I saw last week at practice, like he was as assertive and confident, like moving guys around as I've seen him look. And that's how it should be with now the time he's spent in the defense.
Yep. That's good. I think the pad level thing, because, I remember going out to practice last year at training camp and like an inside drill, seeing him getting flat backed a couple of times by like pulling guards coming up through the hole and everything. And, I think as big and strong as he is, I think that comes from not really being sure where you fit, and you're kind of standing up and looking a little bit and feeling your way. And I'm hoping that issue is fixed by being assertive and being aggressive and knowing exactly without a doubt where you're supposed to be and supposed to fit, and you can go do it with some aggression and not be kind of high and waiting and looking around. So I'm hoping that fixes it but it's something he's going to have to work on for being a taller backer. And I agree with you. You know, getting guys lined up, knowing exactly what you're supposed to do, moving quickly. I expect all those things to be there. It's no excuse time for him, and we'll see. We'll see. It's a big spring for him.
Yeah, I feel like he's like a no doubter. He's going to be one of the guys in the inside there. The other position is the one that feels like it's more up for grabs, right? And when you look at that other inside backer spot, Ted, who do you think are kind of the main guys jockeying to be on the field?
Well, I think the main Mike backer competition going to be between Kanak and McKinzie. Kanak, athletically, an outlier, can absolutely fly, has great top end speed, has real good body awareness, and you know, naturally kind of plays in a good low athletic position. But he's still young. He hasn't hardly played linebacker his entire life. He still hasn't played really any meaningful snaps at all in a football game. So he's still incredibly raw. And I know everyone has these massive expectations for him, and that's good. I believe that he's going to get there. It's just going to take time. You know, he is right now where Stutsman was at this time last year, right? And we saw, and Stutsman actually played more football his freshman year than Kanak did. So I expect him to get a lot of reps. It's going to help to have a guy like Stutsman there lined up next to you to you know, kind of be the voice, and you're there kind of more concerned with yourself than everyone else. But it's going to be a grind for him. And kind of the same thing with Kobie McKinzie. Redshirted last year, didn't play any. It's still going to be a grind getting those guys knowledge base and experience base up to par. But both of them are kind of like, you've got Kanak, who's the athlete, really good in space. And then you got McKinzie, who's a little bit more of a thumper, what you'd consider like an old school Mike backer. You know, whenever he first got on campus, was really slow footed and, you know, just had a hard time getting his pad level down and moving and being aggressive. But as he's been here a little bit, he's really worked on that. I think he's got a better physique, and he's worked on his footwork quite a bit in the drills that they're doing day in, day out. So, I mean, both those two guys, if you could combine them, you probably have the perfect Mike backer at this point. But right now, where they both kind of have some limitations, the other guy picks up in that area. But both of them, knowledge base is going to be low. So it's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah. I think the mental piece of it, and not that these guys are, when we talk about the mental piece and we say it takes time, I feel like some people interpret that as us saying that like they're dumb. That's not it. Like, football's complicated, especially the inside
football
backers.
Dumb,
Yeah,
which everyone is when they show up.
Yeah, and things are moving so fast, and there's so many different things and adjustments that you have to make when you're in that inside backer spot. Like, it's a complicated position to play, and it takes, just like anything else, like it takes reps and reps and reps at it. So we're not saying these guys are idiots or anything like that. It's just, it's hard. And when
you don't play football in high school, I don't know what that is. When you go to college, it's a totally different sport. Everything changes, and for the most part, everyone starts at square one with nothing.
Right. And when you look at Kanak, just seeing, you know, he's definitely added weight. He's almost 230 now, and just seeing him out there on the practice field, the dude operates with a extremely heightened sense of urgency. It, like every rep, which is good. Especially, I was impressed with, and I know you'll love this, his drops in zone coverage. It's like something's on fire and he needs to find like what route is being run in behind it. Like, the head is on a swivel. And you love seeing that stuff, that type of stuff from a young player. But I do want to I do want to compliment Kobie McKinzie. You and I, when we saw him for the first time last year, we were like, oh boy, is he the type of guy? Like, are they going to move him to D line? That was a conversation we had because of the way he looked. And to his credit, he's taken it very seriously. He's slimmed down. He looks good physically. I mean, seeing him the other day, he looks really good physically. It's clear he has put the work in. And I think that was the most important thing for him. And now he's given himself a chance to be on the field, because it sounds like, man, that they are really pleased with his progress mentally, you know, understanding the defense, but also physically. Like, he's putting the time in, he's putting the work in, and the results are good. So I think him putting that type of work in, that should allow them to have more depth. Like, if Kanak ends up being the starter, but it is what it is, but at least you've got McKinzie in the mix where they feel really good about where he's at as a player.
Yeah. Yeah. I expect, I don't know. I'm sure that they'll name a starter out of those guys, that competition for Mike Backer. But I mean, it may be a situation where both those guys play a bunch of reps this year. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I think both of them have physically made the steps that they need to take, and it's just going to be a battle of who can be more consistent on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And just looking at other guys that kind of factor into the picture, Shane Witter, with Witter, I'm pretty much out like, hey, the guy's got to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He can fly. I think he's a pretty instinctive player, but it's just one of these situations where he's been so banged up now throughout his career. It's just hard to think, okay, like, yeah, he's going to be a significant piece to this defense. I'm just going to need to see him be able to stay on the practice field and then playing games, which it's been an issue.
Yep. Yeah, he's one of the guys that needs to stack a bunch of reps and be consistent. And you know, it's hard once you've kind of been not labeled that, but you've got to work your way back up, and it's tough because you're going to be working with less reps. The ones get the most reps. The twos obviously get the next amount, and then after that, it's very difficult to get any reps at all. And, you know, the difficulty goes through the roof with the lower amount of reps. If you've got, you know, in a period as a three, you may get 3 reps, if that. And if you mess up on one of those reps, it's like your batting average gets really bad really quickly, and it's hard to make up any ground on any of the guys in front of you. You're basically at that point waiting on something bad to happen to where you're bumped up the pecking order to a number 2. So it's going to be difficult for him to get that consistency back, but just needs to start stacking good practices one on top of the other.
Yeah, a couple other guys. Kip Lewis, just keep eating, man. Keep eating and keep lifting. The dude can fly, though.
Mm-hmm.
You see him out there on the practice field. If the ball is away, like, he stands out with his ability to run. I mean, but he's only, 203 pounds is what he's listed at.
Tough.
It's too light, man. It's just too light when you're talking about the inside backer spot. And then Phil Picciotti, I'll just tell you, man, dude made some plays when I was out there, and he seems to have the proper amount of crazy you want your inside backers to have. A lot of screaming, a lot of audible noise into the ether, Ted, where I was just like, okay, what is this guy's deal? But he already looks the part out there. Like, he looks like he belongs already, which is, I mean, that's half the battle, right, man?
Yeah. Yep. Big physical dude, right? He's an early arrival. The fact that he's out there and vocal and feels comfortable enough to be a guy that's got that much energy and all of that is really good. He's in the face, like, okay, fifth practice is today, I believe. This is where the freshmen start to really fade. we've gone from 3 defensive play calls overall to now we're probably at like 10, and we're adding blitzes in and all kinds of stuff. The offense is adding motions and shifts. This is where it really starts to deteriorate for the young guys. But everyone knows that. If you show up, you play with energy, physicality, good technique, and at least most of the time can find yourself in the right spot, you're ahead of the curve. But the ability to get this spring under his belt and another summer, another training camp, who knows, right? The 2 guys battling in front of him, Kanak and McKinzie, have a big leg up on him, but it's not going to be hard to make up ground if you can absorb the defense quickly and be able to be a little bit more consistent with those guys. You can at least find yourself in the mix. And I always talk about how rare it is. It does happen where some guys can just, it clicks, right? And it clicks fast, and you make enough big plays whenever you're out there, it can kind of overshadow some of the mistakes. And he seems like that confident of a dude to where, a couple of misfits aren't going to ruin his day. So I don't know. I'd say he's the wild card in that competition for Mike Backer.
Yeah. Going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, but I think it's safe to say we feel better about the inside backer situation now than we did a year ago. But still, got to build the depth at that position. That's why it's so important for guys like McKinzie and Kip Lewis and Kanak, Pachotti. Like they got to get better throughout the spring. So this is a massive spring for that group. Okay, let's talk Cheetah. And where do you want to start? Right? It's a different type of position. Which guys do you think we need to cover with that Cheetah spot?
Harrington, McCullough, probably Pearson and Bowen.
4 very different body type dudes,
which is good. You go from, I guess, extra large down to medium with that group. Extra large, medium.
I think Justin Harrington is the guy right now. Yep. You look at his physical profile, 6'3", 215, looking very comfortable out there in space. Guys, he's an explosive athlete, right? Which is what you need at that position. Maybe his ability to tackle in space is your biggest concern, right? His ability to be physical at the point of attack and the run fit, use his hands, get off blocks, right? That's probably where your biggest concern is. But if he can play the run as well as he needs to play it, the dude can cover. He can run. He's long. He's got everything you want, right? When it comes to dropping in the zone, playing man on different types of pass catchers. So he looks good right now, man. And the coaches are excited about how comfortable he appears to be in that position and his overall understanding of the defense right now.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got the edge at Cheetah. Well, one, athletically, I think he's probably by quite some margin the fastest, most explosive guy there. Like he's a legit. He had the knee, but previously he was a 4.3 guy. He's a 40-inch vertical guy. Extremely explosive, and he's got great length. Whenever you go stand next to him, he looks like a linebacker. He doesn't look like remember he played corner here when he first got here. So
that was the decision.
Yeah.
That was the choice.
If it would have worked, can you imagine how he's got the athleticism to play the position, but I think he's more suited closer to the football. And, I agree. I think some of the tackling, open field stuff is maybe what you concern yourself with the most. If he can they moved him around at some different positions a year ago. I think he's a one position lock in on that and roll. So I feel good about it. I also think that, whenever we talk about missed tackles a lot, missed tackle at the safety position, out on the perimeter with Cheetah, even at linebacker, it's usually a combination of a mental mistake and lining up maybe in the wrong spot or taking a few bad steps, a combination of that and other people not being where they're supposed to be, right? If everyone plays their role how it's supposed to, rarely should you ever be on some really big island in the open field with a running back or wide receiver bearing down on you. Within the framework of a defense, it should all be put into alleyways for guys to come and make plays. So I'm hoping as we become a more sound defense that some of those wide open missed tackles that turn into 20, 30-yard gains become very limited. And I think that will help Harrington, but also reps. The dude just needs reps and some confidence to come behind it. Whenever you watch him play, like whenever he's on the field last year, you notice the guy because he's got an unbelievable motor. He's extremely positive. He plays as hard as anyone. I love the dude, and I have for a long time, and I'm glad to see that he's rounded into shape to maybe get a starting role.
Yeah. I think the other big name that OU fans are associating with the Cheetah position is McCullough, right? Ton of hype coming in from Indiana, had an extremely productive freshman year, but new school, new scheme. You're in the position room with Venables, right?
Psychopath.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
So learning the system is clearly important. And I am not an expert on backer play like you are, Ted. But just from seeing him once in person, I think the most important thing for him is to become best friends with Jerry Schmidt in the weight room. He's thin, man. Mm-hmm. Especially in the lower half, like thin. And I don't know many guys that have skinny legs that are really good football players. I don't know many. So I think that needs to be, learning the defense is important. Clearly, adjusting to life at OU is important for him. But he's got to improve his strength and explosiveness. I mean, when you just watch Harrington operate in space versus him, like it's not close right now. So he's got to put in a ton of work to add strength, but also to add, and some guys just have it naturally, and some guys got to really work at it. He's got to add more suddenness, more twitch if he's going to play that position where he's got to play in space as much as he's going to have to. And it's not going to be easy. It's probably not going to be a whole lot of fun, but that's just what he's going to need to do from what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really concerned with Dasan. I think he's got some really good traits. Like the thing that we've got to remember is this is like a backer edge player. And now they've removed him from that world and put him more in the secondary role, right? And that's a huge change. And he's only 4 or 5 practices in. So a lot of these, like he doesn't have the muscle memory to fall on for some of these movements out in the open field yet. So as he gets more reps, gets more comfortable, I think he's going to start to move better out there in space. Just like I was talking about Stutsman getting flat backed in inside drill because he's a little unsure and he's looking around trying to figure out where he fits. It's kind of the same thing with Dasan out in space. like I'd love to mash the gas pedal and go full throttle, but I'm not exactly sure I'm in the right place. And it just kind of hinders your athleticism. I think it's going to come for him. It's just going to take a little bit of time. My curiosity is if Harrington continues to dominate that, and it looks like he's going to give you an excellent Cheetah, do they try Dasan at edge, or do they try him at Mike Backer? If maybe you've got inconsistencies from Kobie McKinzie and Jaren Kanak, I think that they're going to find a way to get their best players on the field, whatever positions that means. And I think he's going to, once he settles in with all of the change that he's gone through transferring here, I think we're going to see the football player show up. You know, he does some things, I've been told every day that stick out as you just can't coach that. And, you know, as they get him more and more comfortable, they're going to hope that those things continue to show up on a more frequent basis.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, I look at him and I feel like the fan base, when he decided to come to Oklahoma, it's like he's going to have double-digit sacks and he's going to have like 5 interceptions. He's just going to be, he's just going to be unbelievable, right? I mean, the expectations are really high. I just think people need to calm down a little bit, right? The guy, it's a lot of change for him.
Yep, and he's still really young.
Yeah, but I still believe, you know, football players, like if you can play football, they'll find a way to get you on the field.
Yep.
But the most important thing for him is the weight room. You got it. You got to add some more. You got to add some more pop. Right? You just have to. So that's my big thing with him after seeing him in person for the first time.
Yeah. Well, he's got the right strength coach.
Oh my gosh. It'll be a long off season for him, man. It'll be a long one. All right. Do you want to cover Bowen and Pearson now, or do you want to save it for when we talk about safeties and corners?
Well, I'll just say quickly that I think Pearson is kind of your catch-all, your experienced guy, the guy that you're going to be able, because he's played so much football, that you're going to be able, you got position versatility with him, and you're going to be able to move him around and get good, solid play. And Bowen's going to be the guy that he's a young guy. He's got great athleticism and can move, but just like we were talking about some of the other young guys, it's going to be a lot for him. They say he's got a great football IQ. We'll see how he acclimates to that position, because it's different than playing safety from the top. The vision of the field is completely different.
Yeah, we'll talk a little more about them when we talk about the rest of the defensive backs, but definitely want to say just a tragic situation for Bowen's sister. So prayers to the Bowen family with everything they're dealing with. He put some stuff out on social media where OU fans can help them out with that awful situation. So go check that out. All right, let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys, how are y'all feeling about OU's linebacker and Cheetah situation? This first one comes from Eric Foltz, who says there's a ton of talk about the immediate positive impact McCullough can make. Are we expecting too much too fast? Will it also take him a year or more to learn BV's defense? He's in the same spot as all the other guys were at this time last year. That's an interesting point from our man Eric Foltz. Like we talk about, we just covered the physical gains he needs to make, but that's a good way of putting it. Like, hey, he's in the spot that all these guys that we complained about all year about were in. It's so, I don't know, man. I don't want to make it sound like the guy can't play. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just he's having to absorb a lot, Ted, a lot.
Yeah, he is. One of the things that happens is if you've got a mass of players that know nothing, it takes a long time to get the mass of players to where they are they have the adequate information and understanding to play good football. Now, when you have a mass of players that have an adequate understanding of the defense, of the schemes, and are playing good and understand it, the new guys get up to speed a whole lot faster. And he is in the same position as all the rest of the guys were a year ago. But because there's more people around and there's some learning through osmosis a bit that goes on, I believe, it's just everyone knows more, and the questions you ask get answered a little bit better. You're actually seeing guys do it properly in practice. So they get up to speed quicker, and I expect that to happen. But changing it's a totally different position than what he's used to. And like I said, like the muscle memory stuff is going to be the real thing that is going to take a little bit of time for him. Totally new drills that he's used to. Just different movement in practice than he's used to. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I think he'll get up to speed rather quickly. But yeah, I think we should maybe temper expectations until we fully see what he has, and that could take some time. Luckily they've got a ton of football before they kick the thing off to start the season next year, and we'll learn more and more about him as we roll. But I'll say this, the potential, and the thing is like some guys are gamers, and he's shown that. He's got a lot of production as a player, as a young player already in big time football. So I think the future's bright for him. We'll just have to see how quickly he gets there.